How you doing, Thomas? Hey, Laura. Good to see you again.
Hi.
Hi.
Good
John
to see you.
Sales.
Yeah,
Nice to
good,
meet
nice
you.
to meet you.
Glad to be back, man.
Glad to be back. Glad to have you.
I know, I told him. We missed him.
So, Bridget, let me know she's not here tonight. Apple should be here. But, we don't be here. And I don't think our commissioner got sworn in. She just came on vacation.
Yeah.
For the signage. Council Payne. Food. How are you?
Nice to see you in person.
Same.
How are you?
How are you?
All right.
Mr. Dix?
Fine.
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
You mind running this meeting? Sure. Because Bridget won't be here. Sure. And then we'll have a chair. Sure. We'll do the annual meeting at the next one, so we can elect all the board positions.
Do you know, was Bridget the only person confirmed they won't be able to be here?
Yeah, Bridget's the only one, besides the other new commissioner, she hasn't been sworn in yet.
Okay,
But I didn't hear back from Harvey here, so he should be here.
okay.
I can text him, just check and see where he is. Can you message Harvey here? Yes. He's 3 minutes away.
Okay, so we'll just wait for him then.
Yep.
Good, good.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm Gillette.
Gillette.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Need a minute to catch your breath, or are you good to go?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have a quorum, and I believe this everyone will be here, so I will call this meeting to order. We start with the roll call of commissioners.
Commissioner Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Morales,
Here.
Commissioner Rosenbluth,
Here.
Commissioner Hicks.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We'll have a brief moment of silence. All right. Well, for general announcements, I can begin. We have two new commissioners. One is not yet sworn in, so is not able to be here, but is Lise Clavel, and just some very brief background. She has served as a deputy assistant to President Barack Obama. In addition, was a senior advisor under President Joe Biden's administration, in addition to having earlier than that been Tom Perriello's campaign manager here locally in his 2010 congressional race. We do have Gillette Rosenbluth here. I don't know if you wanted to provide some just brief background or words of introduction.
Sure. My name is Gillette Rosenbluth. I am a professor at the University of Virginia. I did a PhD here at UVA, so I've been here since 2012, and I study public housing. My dissertation was on public housing in the U.S., and I've worked with FAR on some oral histories of public housing, so I'm just really excited to be in a different advocacy position and to learn a ton from residents and from everybody who participates in these meetings.
Great. Well, glad to have you with us. Are there any other announcements from commissioners they'd like to make? If not, we can move on to public comments followed by FAR comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Seeing no one, is there anyone from FAR who would like to provide comments? Seeing no one, we just covered the updates from commissioners in discussion, unless there's anything else others had. If not, we can move on to approval of board minutes from the June 23rd meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the June 23rd meeting?
I'll motion to
You
approve.
actually won't have enough to approve it.
Oh, because we don't have a,
You'll need a fourth one. Ms. Rosenbluth can't vote because she wasn't here for that meeting.
so could we table that until?
Let's table it for the next meeting, because then
Sure.
we'll have Bridget Wicks to give you
Sure.
four.
I think we can vote on it if she abstains, but either way, it's fine.
Oh, then let's move forward.
Okay. So you made a motion, Javi?
I'll motion to approve board minutes from June 23rd, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner Goldblatt. Black?
Rosenbluth?
Oh.
I have to abstain, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
abstain.
Commissioner Morales,
Yes.
Commissioner Payne,
Yes. So the motion passes 3-0 with one abstention. We can move on to agenda item 5, strategic plan update.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's good to see you all tonight, and welcome to the board. We have been working on updating our strategic plan that we all worked on together over the past year with Spark Mill. Wait, just a second. I just realized. Shoot, there we go. So we adopted 3 central goals for organizational growth. Residents first is not just something we like to say and have on our shirts. We're looking at it as a workplace culture that we are adopting. Community building. This is, the resident-driven programs we're doing are driving redevelopment and preservation opportunities. And we are in the midst of a lot of redevelopment happening right now, which I'll talk about more. Inspiring transformation, that's making it possible for our organizational structure to build capacity and also steward a healthy relationship with our community. So I'm going to go over a summary of the progress we've made on these goals. So culturally, with resident first, also is part of our strategy with moving forward as an organization. And we're transforming our practices in which we engage with the individuals that we serve and our community as well. We've looked at having increasing resident participation. One of the things we've been doing is increasing hiring of residents into positions where they're actually working within their own communities. We have monthly events that are organized by the Resident Services Department and property managers in tandem that cover all of our sites. We have site beautification that we've also been grateful for some of our city commissioners to be part of, where we're out on the sites doing cleanups, planting flowers, and working on just making the curb appeal of our neighborhoods better. We're working on a hiring guide that includes resident participation. An example of that would be panels where we're looking at hiring a resident facing a position that works with our community, making sure we have residents on the panel to help with those hiring decisions. We've been spending a lot of time focusing on developing quality control systems across all of our departments. We've leveraged local partners and city support to provide relevant wealth building programs. These are programs that the individuals who participate in them can actually see the needle move a little bit, and they tie in really well by weaving them together with several things we're doing. Our grants and development coordinator, she started in 2023, and it has been tremendous as far as capacity building. We have 3 full-time resident service coordinators that cover all of our sites. We've expanded our family self-sufficiency program, and we've also introduced a resident self-sufficiency program. The family self-sufficiency program works with public housing and project-based vouchers, and the Ross program works with just public housing. We also have Jobs Plus that has a footprint in the West Haven neighborhood. We have employer relationships that we've been expanding on with all these programs as part of self-sufficiency building, as we look at meeting people where they are in their workforce pursuits. Some of the areas that have been really beneficial is our relationship with FAR. We've focused a lot on resident safety and stability, and we have some upcoming efforts with that we'll be talking about more over the next month. We're actively working with FAR leadership to expand this collaboration, and FAR staff have been included in some of our hiring panels as well. We're collaborating with surveying community members. That's going to be kicking off really soon. We're doing satisfaction surveys as well as getting feedback so our programs can be more self-determined. We're engaging the whole organization in initiatives that promote effectiveness. We're transforming or transitioning into a trauma-informed housing agency. We know it's going to take us 3 years to do this, but we're gradually building it into all the changes that we have. Our resident service staff have all had this training, and we're working on making sure all of our property management and eventually all of our staff have had access to that training. These SOPs that you worked on with us over the past year were also worked on by all of our departments. We have a trauma-informed care implementation guide that we're working on right now, and we'll be talking to you about that more in coming months. And just looking at long-term projects for making sure that everything has that trauma-informed lens. For community building, it's all about relationships. The number one goal of the Resident Service Department this year is building relationships. We have a lot of reoccurring meetings. John and I attend the FAR Advisory Council. We're part of some local housing meetings with local housing leaders. We attend meetings with some of the regional area as well, and we're just looking at building our collaboration. We've established communication strategies to improve some of these relationships. We're looking at how we market our programs and our properties. We're also looking at how we deliver monthly information to you and our community. All our departments are now getting increasingly involved with our website, and I think especially with some of the assistance of our new IT department, you'll really see that transform. We're working to improve our annual reporting as well, and this is just a part of that. We're identifying and utilizing solutions, working with, on the environmental side with LEAP. We're looking at energy use audits. Our parallel track, which Mr. Collins has worked on very hard, we've been focusing on energy efficient upgrades with that. We've been looking at, paying a lot of attention to the current political environment and just how funds change with that. And I think that's going to be consistent for the coming years. But we continue to seek opportunities in all these areas. We're looking at how to be more responsive as an agency. Our property management is working on building capacity and seeing, what is needed to make us be more effective. We collaborate with both resident services and the property management team on safety meetings, and we're working on some on-site elements to that. Our parking policy has been something that's had many conversations with our community, as well as how towing works. We've included additional staff as support for our property management, and also having some administrative support there to grow their capacity. We continue to audit our staffs and work on building better structures for reporting back to you. We're also focusing on leveraging some of these items. We sent over 25 staff to trainings and conferences around redevelopment and the development of affordable housing. We applied to 7 grant opportunities to support affordable housing and innovative housing solutions. And we've also completed a biannual training with our HCV landlords. Our staff are going to continue to attend these conferences, and we're also focusing on what conferences have the greatest impact. We're also looking at how we can expand our partnership with city staff. Collaboration is very important to us as we are asking our residents what it is they want and need. This is also getting built into redevelopment goals. We have regular meetings that happen for all of our departments, as well as our management team. We have an eviction diversion program that's also a collaboration between departments that I'll be talking about shortly. Our management team meets on a regular basis now, and that has been tremendous in helping improve some of fostering an environment that is collaborative. We have been looking at ways our departments can work together to be more effective. And with that, we've seen new standards evolve. We're looking at working on policies together, also weaving in that trauma-informed lens that I talked about before. Our SOPs that we worked on with you are established for all the departments, and this spring they went into effect, and we're also constantly looking at those. We're working with staff and managers to look at these SOPs, make sure there aren't any gaps, and if so, focus on that. We're creating a succession plan that's part of our success, but also making sure that, if emergencies happen, we have something in place so that we can pick things up and continue business as usual. We have had a great collaboration with UVA for interns. This summer was one of our strongest programs yet. And we had a VISTA program as well, and our VISTA, Bridget Moss, was just amazing, and we've now hired her to start at the end of August. The annual plan's about to start again. An annual plan review and update strategy is being developed right now in partnership with FAR. And we're also constantly evaluating organization needs. We need to make sure we have the capacity to do what we've promised. We're regularly updating these needs for what we're doing now and what we plan to do in the future. And I know Mr. Sales will bring that to you on a regular basis. Our grant writing program has been part of that, and as well as conversations we look forward to having with you about establishing a nonprofit entity, which in our current political climate with uncertain finances is more important than ever before. Our resident satisfaction survey, as I had mentioned before, is going to be launching. Most likely, we'll be starting to see results soon by the fall. And we just had a board item on here at the bottom. We want to work with you on this nonprofit entity, and the next step with that will be taking it to City Council. Any questions?
Yeah, so any questions or thoughts from the board? Can start with you, Commissioner Hicks. I know it's your first meeting, but please don't be shy to jump in with any questions or thoughts at all. Any questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner Rodales.
Can you remind me where we left off? I think I remember from the strategic planning that moving forward on a nonprofit entity was a large priority for the board. And then probably at some point the board would want to talk about how we need to coordinate on that to kind of keep that ball rolling.
Yes.
Out of one of the two board items that were shared.
Yep. And did you want to speak on that, John? I know you've been talking.
Yeah, go ahead, you can
Okay.
go ahead. I think it is on the board, in the board's hands now. Take
Okay.
it to City Council,
Yep.
right?
My understanding is the next steps will be for the board to go to City Council and make a formal request. We've built it in with, where as a mere organization, as we initially start, our SOPs are already in place for that. We just need to get permission from City Council first, and then we can proceed with working with our legal counsel to get everything else in place.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
All right.
Well, just one thought, Richmond's Housing Authority has been in the news recently, and it's interesting reading that. I think this is a good example of how we're pretty unique in terms of the values we have and how we operate, and this is an important reflection of that. Two questions that came to mind. One, I know at previous meetings, becoming a trauma-informed agency has been referenced several times, and you referenced tonight the training. I'm just kind of curious to get a sense of, over the next several years, once that's fully implemented, what kind of actions or changes in how the agency operates might that kind of look like on the ground?
On the ground, and will be any paperwork that comes out of our offices, letters, flyers, notices, will also have that focus to it. So, because often we find, the smallest thing, especially around our eviction diversion program, can be very triggering. So we're going to be really looking at how everything that comes out of our offices is designed. We're also going to be looking at our office spaces, and I know Redevelopment's been working a lot on this as well, just looking at welcoming spaces for our community as they enter into them. We're going to be having all of our staff trained, even maintenance, just in how they approach people and how they respond if there's a situation. Unfortunate events can happen in a community, and we want to know as an organization that we all have the training, skills, and resources to respond to that. And a large part of that is going to be engaging with our community partners so that they will have boots on the ground with us when these things happen.
Definitely. A very high-level question, but are there any of these goals that have jumped out so far that have been the hardest to operationalize, or have seen, just presented the biggest challenges, whether it's in terms of resources or just the difficulty of the goal?
I would say capacity, just capacity, making sure we have the right people in place and the resources for that. What would you say, Mr. Sales, to that one?
I started looking at it as soon as Michael said that. I'm like, that's probably it. And it's really because we were asked to do changes. And so a traditional housing authority almost acts as a warehouse for housing. They bring folks in, you get them in the unit, and then you manage that unit. Well, we're asking our staff to do a lot more than that. So the eviction diversion program alone is stop, rethink how you traditionally do an eviction, and let's start all the way over. Because if we want folks to be successful, we can't do it the traditional route of someone's late, immediately send a notice, and then that process starts. Well, we're asking someone to say, hey, no, Let's rethink that. Let's put ourselves in their shoes and go from there. And I think that's an adjustment that our staff is making. In a lot of cases, we have staff that have been doing property management for 15 or 20 years. And so they're used to it being this way. And so with trauma-informed care, we're asking them to rethink how they work. And it's not just how a property manager works, but it's how HR functions with our staff. It's how we function with each other. So like if a coworker's having an off day, you're recognizing that and being prepared to respond to that in a trauma-informed care way. And so it's not just a total shift in how you do business, it's a total shift in how you do life. Like how you go out through your entire day, how you manage that. And so I think that is probably a hard piece, and then just, hey, we're doing more, we're taking on more, we need to take on more. Like there are thousands of families on our wait list that need our housing, and so we have to do it. And it's just being prepared and having the right folks at the table to get that done.
I saw you get ready to jump in earlier. Did you have any other thoughts or feedbacks just on the strategic plan item generally?
Yeah, I touched on the trauma-informed care piece. I think the sustainable housing, I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to constantly talk about how we do that. Because like Kathleen mentioned, a lot of those resources are drying up. But like just 2 weeks ago, we were able to meet with a private donor who is doing her own PPA agreements. And so she actually funded the PPA agreement at 6th Street and South 1st Street Phase 2. And so it's going to be like those strategic partnerships that just happen from a random phone call. It's going to be how we continue to push our mission.
Those being PPAs for solar installation?
Yes, PPA for solar installation, I'm sorry.
Great. Well, is there anything else on this item?
No?
Any other questions or thoughts from the board? If not, you already segued into it a little bit. We can move to the eviction diversion program update.
Sure. All right. Okay, great. This is a good segue because it's all about a culture shift as an agency in the way we provide services. This has been a huge learning curve for us. It's something, our agency has not done before. We're asking 2 departments that haven't, one is brand new and haven't ever had to collaborate before to come together. We filled you in earlier this year on how the program would roll out. This is just a reminder that also, since we have some new incoming board members, I just wanted to include this in the packet. But, we also had talked before about how the late rent process works. And I don't think we have Ms. Banks with us, but she's been my partner in designing all of this. We also talked about a really hard thing, the 72-hour termination around health and safety when something happens that jeopardizes the neighborhood, usually around violence, and that this is something that comes into play. And in these situations, our eviction diversion program will not be engaging. So we touched on all that before. And I just put this in the beginning of the packet because just as a reminder, we have some new folks with us, and just wanted to make sure that's still in everyone's mind. But just an update since we talked to you in February. We've been learning so much as we do this. So my partner in this has been Toronto Banks, who's our interim property management director. And she and I have found that we really need to be conscientious about people's privacy as we compile these lists. And so we've been developing a higher level report that's seen by fewer eyes that has everyone on it. Because everyone on it is not just people who owe rent. It might have an individual who does fall under one of those health and safety situations. It's everyone who's not in good standing. So they might have failed a housekeeping inspection. Their kids might have gotten in a fight with someone else's kids and caused disruption in the neighborhood. But Everyone is on this list, so we're trying to really think about how we manage this list and also protect individuals' information. We've created new forms internally that we use, and but also just reporting, what we see happening with outside entities that are involved in the process. We had 11 referrals over last month, and this was for rent owed. This month, we're probably going to double that number by the end of the month. And some of these were carried over. What we do on our form is we're building something where you don't leave the tracker until you're in good standing. So you're going to stay on that tracker indefinitely until we're able to help work with you, or if unfortunately the resident chooses to leave our programs. So we're doing a lot of staff training as we roll this out. We are also talking about things like dignity and respect. If we have residents who do not want to work with us or just aren't able to come to a place where an eviction is going to be able to be stopped, we want to make sure that someone's working with them and talking to them, if they're willing, about what are they going to do, where are they going to go. So that training has been happening with our staff now. Sometimes we do have individuals who do not want to work with us. Our Ross program is working on 7 referrals at this time. I think we might have just added one more today. That's the program that's resident opportunity and self-sufficiency, and it just works with public housing residents. It's been a great addition to our programs because you do not have to be in good standing to enter the Ross program. FSS has worked on 2 of the eviction diversion challenges very intensely. They were very challenging cases of people who were already in the FSS program, and they were both resolved through a lot of work, car rides together, and mini meetings. Our resident service coordinators are actively working on referrals. The agency collected a little over $15,000 this past month. And we had 2 evictions that were paused and several that are in the process of intervention. Every family, right now we're asking them to sign an authorization form when they move in, which we did not have in place before. Right now, as we're approaching individuals that are not close to a recertification, we're asking them to sign that authorization form, giving us permission to have them in this program and for us to talk to other agencies. But we're looking at building in new systems and actually policy that will probably be our first trauma-informed care policy, looking at how we can make our community aware of this program and how it works, and making sure it's what our community wants to see us doing. Next month's numbers are going to be significantly higher as we're working with property management on sending every family, as soon as they go out of good standing, immediately to the program. We were kind of in crisis mode the past couple of months. We had a lot of individuals who owed a significant amount of money. I think it was about $250,000, and we've been really focusing on that group, but now we want to also make sure we're starting immediately as soon as the family is not in good standing to have a better chance of success. We've built this protocol for the Resident Services Department about how to proceed once they make a referral, receive the referral, following up on the referral. We talk a lot about documentation and tracking. And the next step on this will be once we start working on aftercare with some of our education programs. We had a lot of challenges. Make sure it shows up all the way on here. We've had a lot of challenges with people understanding the different programs because, as we said before, resident services did not exist before, and now it's there. Plus, you have all of these self-sufficiency programs. So we designed this chart to really break it out for our property management team so they had a better understanding of how they could go about referring someone or where it might not be appropriate to refer them. And this has been very helpful. There's been a lot of time spent on relationship building, and with that trust building between the departments and with staff. Because not only are they needing to build that with their community, but with one another. We also really looked at making sure people were thinking about different properties and what that meant as far as referrals. All of these programs have an element of the Economic Opportunity Program, which is sort of one of the pillars of resident services. This involves working towards reducing or eliminating reliance on housing subsidies, and instead focusing on increased earnings. Our resident service coordinators have also been getting training that our self-sufficiency coordinators had in place before on how to do individual service plans. That's something that we want everyone who's doing any type of case management to understand how to do and how to follow up on how to make it be something that, you know, is what the person they're working with has asked for and not something they think they need. We're spending a lot of time building our partnerships at the moment. We're having conversations with local providers, asking what they could do, what they have been doing in our community, looking at their grant funding and saying, we don't see you doing this, but would like you to be. And then we're building MOUs with them, so expectations are understood on all sides. We've been building an education program. Our UVA interns this summer have been really helpful with that, and we're hoping to roll some of that out this fall. That will be tied in with, you know, we're looking at saying to individuals, we want to help you with your balance and look at budgeting. If you're doing a repayment agreement, while you're doing that, we also want you to be working on some of these trainings as well. But we know every training isn't for everyone, so we're trying to build in, kind of a myriad of trainings so that we're, definitely meeting people where they are, because a budget class, we have some people that, there's something more pressing happening in their household, and that's what we need to focus on first, and then we can get to the budgeting class. So we have been also making sure everybody knows how to get in touch with each other. We have a staff list, but sometimes we find that if you really plug it into what you're trying to do, it makes a big difference. So our next steps, we still struggle with transportation. It's been an amazing partnership with United Way and their Lyft program, but you only get 5 trips, and you got to have a cell phone and know how to use that, or else come down and have our staff help you do it. But one of our goals as we, do hopefully get a nonprofit going is to be able to focus on having, our own contracts with agencies such as Uber or Lyft. We're looking at having walk-in social service appointments. We are building out spaces at most of our sites with either that we have or with community partners, so that social services can have meetings that are walkable. We're also looking at working with Marie Poole, who is a clinical social worker with Region 10 with lived experience, and she's been very patient with us as we carve out space for her to meet with residents in. She's been spending a lot of time sitting in community centers and getting to know all of our residents. We're also working with the Women's Initiative and several other partners. Childcare continues to be a struggle. And again, rent assistance. A lot of agencies in town have run out of funding, or there's new rules in place where they might not want to give funding if you already have a subsidy or if your balance is more than $1,000. So that's been, a real challenge for us, and we're spending a lot of time circling around that and thinking about it. We're looking at increasing services at the Crescent Hall Clinic, which is something we're really excited about. Bridget Moss, who I already talked about before, our Vista, is also a nurse practitioner, and we're so excited about her joining our team. She's been helping us really think strategically, looking at data, and we're hoping that she'll also help us re-envision how we can better provide services in our clinics. We are presenting at the October Virginia Housing Alliance Tax Credit Conference on our eviction diversion program. They had heard about it and they wanted us to come talk to contractors about it, the people who are actually building properties. And so we'll be doing that. And one of us, we're going to be on the panel also for the most vulnerable in the conference after that.
It's Captain.
Yeah, you're it. All right, any questions for me?
Yeah, well, we can start with Commissioner Rodales this time. Any questions or comments, thoughts?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Rosenbluth?
I mean, this sounds awesome, but yeah, I don't have any questions right now. Thank you.
All right.
A few questions. Well, and first, I guess just high-level thought. I know this is something Commissioner Goldblatt had advocated a lot for, getting these updates and making sure it's a continued focus for the board. And as I hear this, I just think a bunch of things all at once, like the impact of how HUD looks at the agency for the amount of back rent, that when people are evicted, obviously many of them may have no other place to go. You mentioned the health and safety side of evictions that can happen as well. Like anything in life, I'm sure there's some individuals who, if they think they can get away with not paying rent, may do that, but there's also a lot of people who have addiction or mental health or family problems that are creating, a barrier. And just like all those things exist all at once at the same time. All of which say this seems like a lot of work and a lot of really intensive work from kind of a human and resource side. So I'm curious, you mentioned some, but what has jumped out of kind of the biggest gaps in terms of the resources you're seeing that you would need to do this work as effectively as possible from, investments City Council could make on that side, but also just kind of your broader community partnerships as well?
I think for like the resident services department and just sort of our development arm where we pursue grants, if we had more opportunities to secure funding around rental assistance, not just so we can pay balances, but we could build, really strong programs. You'd have a carrot of getting help, but we could also then talk about what could be built in about, some of the challenges that an individual is facing. I think instead of paying off a whole balance at once, we could really start looking at, we're going to pay this much of your rent each month as long as you're paying as well. And with the understanding that you're going to work with us together on these items. And, maybe it's an opportunity to also bring in, more enriching education opportunities and exposure to them that the individual might not have chosen or known about before, especially now that we have a clinical social worker who is available. I've been talking to Misty with Human Services. I'm really excited to talk about getting more like SAMHSA graphics available on all of our sites for individuals who didn't get the opportunity to learn how to read. But funding for rental assistance, it's such a struggle. I have staff who spend so much time just trying to get $500, sometimes just to, and if we knew the funding was there, then we could really focus on what else is going on instead of constantly chasing a few dollars here, a few dollars there just to get there before the deadline.
So I'm hearing in part just, that basic rental assistance is at least one huge part of it that's not fully funded.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the lowest amount of money we receive
Yeah.
directly from the city for rental assistance, but it's probably the most effective. So in the past, we received funds from the city and we just deployed them on all delinquent accounts. So you paid off everyone's balance to get them back to zero, but then again, the next year you were looking at doing the same thing. And I think we did that a couple of years at almost $250,000 each time. And so this year, I think we got 18,000. So less than 10% of what we would typically get, or we got the last couple of years. But we were able to get folks into repayment agreements, structure them so they made payments, and then the city money came in, and so we got people on a plan to actually make payments. They showed consistency with making the payments. We got them other resources like budget, financial literacy, budget management, and so it was a collective of things. But finding the rental assistance is now the hardest because you have some folks who have reached their lifetime cap. But if they lose housing with CRHA, they have no other housing choice in this area that they can afford, and they can't get on federal assistance again without paying back that back rent. So it's really a double-edged sword to where it screws them now, but also in the future, they are also unable to get housing without taking care of that balance. And so you really just push them to the street to find other resources that the city end up funding anyway.
Right. Well, I know for the city, you know, there was a huge cutback of the pandemic rental relief programs that were available, the state programs, and then we shifted it to primarily pathways and then eviction diversion through PHA's Financial Opportunity Center. And it's not shocking at all, but it sounds like, you know, the barrier is those programs, because they're also limited in funding, you know, imposed lifetime maximum caps. It sounds like those programs just aren't able to touch a lot of the people this program is trying to reach, basically.
Especially, I mean, substance abuse is rampant, and we have individuals that really, you know, they're not ready to go. We talked about this at the board retreat some too, but they're just, you know, not ready for recovery yet. They're not willing. And if we, you know, if our staff spend their entire time just trying to help them not get evicted over funding, then there's, you know, it's really hard to, you know, be able to focus on what the greater need is.
I know you can't, you know, talk about individual cases or anything like that, but are you seeing that there's like, what are the most common problems you're encountering? I mean, is it, I mean, you mentioned literacy. Is it that, or is it really primarily like mental health and addiction you're seeing as the most frequent barrier causing, you know, the long-term?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, when someone doesn't pay their rent, the money went somewhere else. So often our staff are trying to figure out, well, where did the money go? And we might find that there's repayment agreements, pays needed. Maybe they're getting older and trying to age in place. Maybe they never could read or write, and someone's been helping them, and maybe that person who's been helping them hasn't quite gotten the money order for the same amount they thought they were. That happens more than you would think. And then we try to get other groups involved when that does. We also, you know, we have folks that are prioritizing different things than their housing. And it's not until they actually realize that the housing's about to go away that, you know, that sometimes that's when they're ready. But if we can't, you know, if we can't do anything to stop it, they've already maxed out with everyone in town, then even though they're really ready, we're having to, you know, talk about helping them get to a shelter.
Yep. Yeah, I would say I jotted down 3: mental health, substance abuse, and then adult abuse, where we have individuals inside of the unit taking advantage of someone, of the head of household. So they're either taking their money as soon as the check comes in, physically, or they are, I think our last one, it was like something like Kathleen just mentioned, they're going to get the money order, and it's been 8 months where they've been getting the money order, and it's never gotten to CRHA. No. And so we've brought in the Adult Protective Services, for instance, like that. We've tried to work with, like, I think, is it PACE? Innovate now, because they have a program where they will set someone up with the pay. We've worked with them in the past. But it's always, or 9 times out of 10, one of those 3 that we're dealing with. falling in that category. And just to highlight, yes, Kathleen mentioned that we're at, you said 11 Kathleen referrals. We should be at over 100, just off of non-payment of rent.
Yeah, by the end of this week, we'll probably be at 25, I think, if I counted right.
So we're averaging every month about 100 folks not paying their rent. So in the perfect world, all 100, if their rent is not paid on the 6th of every month, would be transferred over to resident services for engagement.
And then Commissioner Rosenbluth had something just real quick. Could you repeat the first two of those again?
Mental health, substance abuse, and then adult abuse.
Yes, I'm hesitant to ask this because I feel like it might be asking if you can do more work than the work that you're already doing, but have people been kind of tracking or like building kind of data sets from the eviction diversion program since it began? And if yes, like great, and if not, is that something that we could figure out how to try to amp up capacity for moving forward? It seems like we're getting a lot of important information from this, and maybe having that information in kind of a easily understandable, viewable way for folks might be a good way to kind of get support for people who might be funding it, right? People who might see the kind of difference it's making, and also for us to understand, which community partners we need to be prioritizing our relationship building with.
Yes, we are collecting with Family Metrics, which is a new case management system, and Property Management has been working with our Vista, Bridget Moss, on new systems for reporting as well. I think you just saw their new monthly report, which she helped with. We're also, it is a capacity area. If someone has 10 referrals and they're the majority of them are about tenant account receivable TARs, and that's, that's what they're really trying to focus on, then it is hard to focus on some of those other areas. And, we, and I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir, but we don't have a lot of facilities here to refer people to with chemical dependency, and we have people who are actively using, and we need to, increase our partnerships in that area. With mental health, relationship building is tremendous, because if you have a staff person and we've built a relationship, and we know every year that person struggles at certain times, then we can be more proactive and supportive of them. But we are going to have those unfortunate events, and just, having things in place for that will help. But funding is a big thing. Like we definitely, I always tell them we're a scrappy department.
Thank you.
Right, because I think, outside of just the rental assistance, just hearing this, it sounds like it's basically intensive social work, as well as just, building authentic, deep relationships with, residents. Just for new commissioners and then the public as well, stepping back, just like for context as well, like what is the existing system been in terms of the opportunity for people to get on a payment plan and the lowest amount, they can pay monthly?
So the amount owed is, or the calculation for that is based upon their income and then the debt. So we typically are ranging eight month repayments. So it calculates, it's a formula. We put it inside of the computer, how much is owed, how much your income is, and it generates. So I've seen them as low as like $35 in addition to their rent. But it all goes based upon how much they owe and their income.
And then you referenced it earlier, but that number of the amount of unpaid rent and then the number of tenants who are driving that ballpark.
Yeah, so it's a little bit over 100 tenants, and the dollar amount is now at 138 from what I can see. And that's only looking at public housing, so it's not looking at city housing or the tax credit properties. I only pulled the public housing report. So
And,
I would estimate it's probably like 200,000 total.
right, driven by like 150 to 200 tenants.
150, I would say, because we do grab some of the Crescent Halls units in that count, and we grab the public housing ones that are in South First Street.
And just finally, beyond obviously just, that loss of annual income, what is the pressure from HUD when they look at that number and kind of the impact of that?
Yeah, so TARS is one that we have not been able to master. So we've done pretty good on everything else. Like our financials look great besides TARS. Occupancy looks good. The physical inspection was the best we've ever had. West Haven was at like 91 or 90. TARS has been something that has kicked us every time. I think they look for 3 to 5%. We hover around 15%. So we are really high for TARS. The agency has historically ran a very large TAR balance. It's been consistent. And so this program is our first stab at actually trying to address that by not just throwing money at it. Every year in the past, we've just thrown money at it to get the TARs down. This year is the first year we didn't just throw a significant chunk of money at it to actually try to lower that balance. It will not be easy. It will be something that we have to be consistent with. Just in the past few weeks, I think we've stopped at least 2 to 3 evictions that had sheriff dates for lockouts. And I think those families understand the sense of urgency that they have not understood in the past, because CRHA has always bailed out, thanks to the city providing a lot of eviction diversion money. But this is the year where that was not the case. And so families had to come to the table and really talk to us about how we address the situation. And we actually now have, I wouldn't say the right amount of staff, but we have more than one person that's handling it. In the past, it was just Joy Johnson working in resident services, and now we have someone at every site that is working with the property manager to address those issues.
And I heard HUD likes 2.5% for tenant accounts receivable.
2.5 to 3% is where they want you to be, and we haven't been there.
15.
Yeah, we're at about 15%.
And so again, what's kind of the practical consequence of that? Does that impact HUD funding? Obviously that, how does that impact how HUD deals with, CRHA?
So it has not impacted funding. If the grading scale changes, then it will. So I will say, when you say it has not impacted funding, we can't get to a high performance status with that grading. And so with a high performance status, we would get more funding for capital fund. So that will, I will say that is the impact. You're not penalized from the money you already receive, but you can't get the extra 10% in capital fund money that you would receive if you were a high performer. That is what's holding that up, that score, that TAR score. Because our physical score was great, our financial score was great. I think we lost 0.8 points or something like that. And then the management, internal controls was good. And so the only thing holding us up is that TARS that's really high.
And the ballpark existing waiting list is?
I think we have that number in here. It's over 6,000 people, I believe, on all of our wait lists for public housing. Between the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. And then the HCV wait list is about 1,900 folks, 1,706. So we have a lot of families that need housing.
No, and it's, it's just like a lot of things are simultaneously all true at once, and very difficult, but, I definitely appreciate the update and the amount of kind of work that's going into it. As I said, for better or worse, when I see this, the way I think of it is just like, what does this look like in terms of like budget requests to city council in terms of specific dollar amounts, and outside of city council, the partnerships that, there's gaps in, whether it's Region 10, or you mentioned there's obviously a huge gap on addiction treatment and all kind of multiple levels. But yeah, that's kind of what leads me to think about. But I'm done. Is there anything else from commissioners? Questions, thoughts? Cool.
All right,
Well, I appreciate the update.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We can move on to the housing director update.
Tarana, are you present? Kathleen, can you see? Oh, she's not, okay. All right, I will handle this report. So the property manager report, it's changed a little bit this time, this go around. After your cover page, you'll have some graphs. Now, we'll go through that. We're now currently tracking the amount of folks that come into the offices. And so you'll find that on the first category, Crescent Halls receives a lot of visitors, and that is not just strictly in the office. That's visitors coming through the front door at 921. Kathleen touched on the collection efforts. It's about $15,000 received this month in collections due to resident services and property management working on that. 2 team members received or completed the Certified Occupancy Specialist Training in Public Housing. That is going to be a training that we continue to send staff to as the public housing regulations change. There currently are some proposals out there that would deeply change how we operate and run public housing. And so we have been staying abreast of those changes. One is very significant. That would change the number of families that can continue staying in public housing. A majority of our families would not qualify to continue after the 2 years if there was a term limit placed on it. I think the current policy or proposal would only, folks who are disabled and elderly would continue to stay beyond the 2 years, but a lot of our folks would not. And so we're looking at how that impacts our folks. We actually started talking about that last year because these were rumblings that we heard last year. Some of the big items, we currently have about 30 vacant units. Yes, that number is high, but we have 12 of them that are in Greenleaf or Dogwood. Greenleaf was a property that we acquired at the beginning of the year. We've emptied out one whole apartment building because it needs a complete gut, and so we plan on gutting that building and then rebuilding it as not SRO, but we're going to be renting by the bedroom. We're going to be offering that as an option, and that is to try to help families that are losing housing due to Cavalier Crossings, the sale of that property. And then they also have 3 units that were vacant when we purchased the property that we're currently renovating, and those will be leased up as soon as they're done. Councilor Payne, were you about to ask something?
No.
Okay. The Mickey, Madison, Riverside, and Scatter sites have 6 vacant units. We have 3 of them are in, 3 of them will not be rented out because we plan on deploying our parallel track plan on those units. 2 of them are at Mickey, 1 of them is on Ridge Street. Parallel track is the complete renovation of public housing units that we do not plan on tearing down. And so that will include bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations, interior renovations, flooring, doors, light fixtures. And that site will also have the HVAC units replaced because we did not do it at Ridge Street during this last HVAC installation project. West Haven has 4 vacant units. Crescent Halls has 3. 2 of them are currently being worked on and should be done by the end of this week. And South First Street has 5. Also in here, we're tracking the non-payment notices. Those are the notices that go out to residents who have not paid. 38 were processed, 2 at 6th Street and the scatter site, 6 at Greenleaf and Dogwood, 16 at West Haven, 8 at Crescent Halls, 3 at South First Street, 2 at Riverside, 0 vacate, 1 at Madison. We have 2 notices to vacate, and those are both at West Haven. So we expect to have 2 more vacancies come online. If you flip over on the next page, you have your unlawful detainers that have been filed. We have filed a total of 16, 4 at Mickey, Madison, Riverside, and scatter sites, 2 at Greenleaf and Dogwood, 1 at West Haven, 6 at Crescent Halls, 3 at South First Street. We have 2 that are pending court dates, and both of those are at West Haven. And then we have 2 trials that are scheduled. Both of those are also at West Haven. We have 3 pending court cases at South First Street. Those are related to rent. We have 0 non-related to rent at any of the sites. And then we have 7 pending writs. 2 at Mickey, Madison, Riverside, 3 at West Haven, and 2 at South First Street. And it looks like the next page actually tracks all of the delinquents, and that includes folks that are no longer living with us. And so that balance is $338,000. Like I said, that includes families that are no longer living with us. In a few months, we'll bring to you a write-off recommendation to write off the balances for families that have moved out, because we are not likely to collect that money. It doesn't say that we're not going to try to collect it. We actually enrolled in the tax program last year to where other housing authorities enrolled. So if a debt is owed to a housing authority, you can enroll that debt into the tax program, where if a tax is supposed to be generated for that family, the debt is paid off first. That will allow families in the future to be able to be rehoused in public housing, because that debt would then go to 0. But that's something new. We just signed up for last year, so this year is our first full year of actually filing that. You have to have a judgment, and so a lot of the old cases, like if someone moved out, then we have not submitted those, but the ones that we actually get a judgment on, all of those will be submitted for collections. Actually, I was wrong about the number of public housing on our wait list. Is actually 2,553. It says we have no purchases in progress, but I will say we got a phone call last week about someone looking to sell their portfolio. And so we are engaging with that individual to figure out their plan of disposition, the length of it, and the dollar amount they will be looking for. So far, I think we've identified 10 properties that they would be willing to get rid of soon. Okay, I think that's all I have. If you guys have anything, please let me know. I can answer any questions you guys may have.
Any questions or comments?
No.
All right. Well, I'll just say on the federal changes, I know City Council is already thinking about our legislative packet and what's going on with state coalitions. It sounds like there's at least a possibility the state may have to create state-level voucher program and funding opportunities in a way it just never has before. So if anyone out there has ideas, certainly let us know. Moving on to the next item, HCV program manager update.
Yes, and so that is, I'm going to be providing an update. I'm not the HCV program manager, though. There hasn't been a lot of change in this program. We were in shortfall last year, and so we have not issued any new vouchers. We've just maintained our current voucher load. We've also started talking about some of the new developments we have coming online. Like 6th Street will be utilizing 41 vouchers from the HCV program as project-based vouchers, and then South First Street is going to utilize 55 vouchers. And so we're going to be working with HUD to actually plot and plan the usage so we don't run into a shortfall in a few years. And so going forward, we're going to be pulling vouchers and setting them aside for that future deployment at those 2 sites. So we're current at 459 participants, which is $500,000 in housing assistance payments and $63,000 in utility payments. We have a wait list of 1,700 families. Like I said, that number will not change. We currently have 10 people that are unleased that are looking for housing. The mainstream program has 37 folks housed. We currently have a capacity of 40. And so we have 2 folks that are looking for housing and 7 on the wait list for that program. Project-based assistance at Crescent Halls, we currently have 50 families housed at that program. So we have 2 families that are going to be housed once those units are ready. We do use the public housing wait list to fill those units. Those units were public housing, and so the commitment was to continue utilizing the public housing wait list so families would not have less opportunities to get housed because you have less units. The crossings currently have 19 families housed. They currently have the capacity for 2 additional families, and they have a wait list of 1,239 families. The enhanced voucher program has 5, and those vouchers were actually created to keep families housed once rents increased on a previously project-based voucher housing type. For the EHV program, we have 11 families. We originally started with 15. That program has a sunset, and so once those vouchers expire, they go away. And so you will not see that number increase. You will only see a decrease. And they're now actually talking to us about absorbing those vouchers in our regular voucher program. We've been pushing back on that a little bit, but that has been the communication going forward. Tenant protection vouchers, those were for relocation. We currently have 8 of those. Tenant relocation vouchers were also for relocation. We had 8. So the tenant protection vouchers are for the families that choose not to come back to public housing. So you start your project, HUD gives you 2 different vouchers. One is a relocation for public housing units that are coming back, and one is a voucher for families that were living in that public housing unit who may choose not to come back. And so the relocation ones are, they both sunset, but the protection are for the ones that chose not to come back to your community. VASH, we currently have 5 of those, but for our lease, we have 2 people looking, and so that's under a referral basis. So we get a referral from the Veterans Administration for families, and then we assist them from that point. The Fostering Youth Initiative, we currently have 17 families housed with 2 looking. In portable vouchers, we currently have 13. Those are vouchers that are ported in from other agencies. So an agency can either absorb or bill. And so if you see it as a portable voucher, it is being billed. And so that total, we have 655 vouchers for almost $700,000 in housing assistance payments. For the SISRAP program, we currently have 71 families housed under that program for a monthly HAP of $69,160. And that is a little above what we were budgeted for that program. We should be at, with that dollar amount, we'll spend about $829,000 a year on HAP, which is about $15,000 too high. But we do have a reserve that we are going to be eating in, which is good news. HGS inspections completed, 32 annuals were completed in the month, 3 special and 6 QC. For recertifications, we completed 65 this month. Annual certifications and pending past due is 10. We have been trying to address the pending past due because that is heavily scored. And so we're looking at other ways to bring in folks to get those recertifications done. And so we're looking at Rent Cafe, where residents or participants can scan documents to us instead of having to drive all the way to our office, find parking, and then get it to us, or wait for us to make copies of it and then give it back to them. And so we're going to be looking at ways that we can also send reminders, like we have text.gov now. We can send a text reminder saying, hey, your recertification is due, instead of using the Postal Service, which is the only way we're authorized to communicate with residents now. That's our official form. And so sometimes it takes them a week or 2 weeks to even get the notice when you only have 14 days to respond. And so that's problematic. And so we're looking at ways to address that as well. Because that number is something that will affect us in the future. And so we want to get that number down. I think that's all I have. Open you guys up for any questions.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
No.
All right. We can move into our last update then, the finance update.
Good afternoon, everyone. Short update, we went over through, all of the last quarter at the retreat, so, and since then, our FDS unaudited report for fiscal year '25 has been accepted by HUD, and the IT department and finance is working on a way to do a paperless inventory, basically of all of our resident files, all of our financial files, HR, just the whole thing works easy to search and all that, so we've engaged with RICO right now to kind of see how big a project that would be, because we got to keep, so many years of records and, eliminating a lot of paper waste and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of our big project right now. That's all I got, guys.
Any questions or comments?
All right.
Now we can move into our last public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak?
Brandon, you want to talk about LV Collective? Yeah. I'll put you on the spot.
All right, well, let's move back from public comment. Well,
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Collins. I'm your redevelopment coordinator. I work pretty closely with our West Haven resident planners on the redevelopment plan for that neighborhood that saw its first residents moving in December 1964. Fun fact, I just discovered they put up a fence along the West Main Street side in 1985 that completely blocked access to West Main Street. Saw that little tidbit today. One thing that resident planners have struggled with is development on West Main Street. There's a group called LV Collective that are seeking to build right by the basketball court on Main Street. There's 2 empty parking lots, and they are seeking to build a 12-story luxury student housing complex on that property. Unfortunate just on its face, but when you put it in the context of the resident developed master plan, it really has a huge impact. Everything the residents had designed, which were involved a lot of compromises because we can't fix everything about the past, particularly how it was dug out and how there's no connection to West Main Street, no accessible way to get to the rest of the world from West Haven. We built a beautiful sort of plaza that's going to be have 2 community centers on the side with a accessible switchback ramp up the slope there to take you to our brand new sport court and get you out on an accessible path to West Main Street, as well as some stairs and stuff there. It's beautiful. The rendering that the architects provided really looks stellar, and in place of that now you will see a 12-story wall, and residents aren't terribly happy about it. LV Collective has a meeting with West Haven resident planners and the 10th Page Neighborhood Association this Thursday at 6 o'clock at the Jefferson School Auditorium. I'm sure that residents would appreciate board support for what residents need out of this. It has a huge impact on safety, lighting, and just fairness and our ability to address the mistakes of the past. That CRHA has really embraced that and taken that on, and I think the city is trying to support that, and we just really want your support. And telling these folks that, something's got to give on this, if not completely give on it. So just throwing that out there.
any questions?
Mr. Sales can fill you in on a lot on the side if you need.
Any questions or comments from the board? No. I will I'll get a little political here, I guess. I think this is a concerning moment that, quite frankly, I've kind of been waiting for, because our new zoning ordinance, I think, was a significant improvement over the old one and has a lot of positive things. One of the things I think was a mistake in it is how extensively we did the X districts, which are X5 and above, where you can go 7 stories or above by right, particularly because that's overwhelmingly going to be national student housing developers. You could also build hotels, and I think there's also a hotel slated for development on West Main that would oversee West Haven as well. And in the new zoning, those districts have no discretionary decisions involved anymore. The only discretionary decision point is the Board of Architectural Review. Whereas before, there were special use permits where people could get to what I think they wanted, which is kind of a community benefits agreement where you could work with residents to figure out very specific impacts and mitigate those, at a very hyper-local neighborhood level. And those were taken away in the new zoning ordinance and replaced by, all those projects would be required to have at least 10% of units be 60% of area median income or below affordable, or in those cases, they'd likely pay into the housing fund based on a formula. All of which is to say, I don't think many people realize the implications of taking away any discretionary decision points for how extensive those districts are, especially because the only development there is going to be national student apartment developers. And I would just say, I think this could be a very unfortunate moment, because I think those residents, because that mistake was made, can go to that meeting, but there's very few leverage points remaining to actually change anything about it. I do think the city is about to begin our annual process of reviewing the zoning ordinance and looking at what's working, what's not working, what did we get wrong, what did we get right. And I think any residents, any board members, any staff who are concerned about this, I would strongly, 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 strongly urge you to email city council, speak at city council meetings, and attend the upcoming work sessions about reviewing our annual zoning ordinance to provide this perspective, because it was one that was not heard during the development of the zoning, because, for a variety of reasons, just many residents who will be directly impacted by it just weren't at those meetings. So for a lot of council, that means it's not a problem, it's invisible. And I think it's really important to hear that. We're also beginning on building small area plans in 10th and Page, and I've seen that same exact issue, that residents had no idea that zoning that allows 7, 10, 12-story student apartments with no discretionary decision points at all anymore is now the case. And I think if that voice is not heard at the city council level, I don't think it's going to change, because I think a lot of people do, and there's some truth to it, but a lot of people believe, all new market rate supply, no matter what, is universally the solution, and there's no trade-offs. And I think it's important to hear from, public housing residents to make known how nuanced and complex these issues can get. All of which to say, unless that happens, I don't think there's going to be a change for this or projects like that. So we just very, very strongly encourage that, not to get too political or go into the history of it too much, but I'll end it there.
That's the truth.
All right. Well, on that note, we can go into public comment.
Sorry, I did a little icebreaker.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's interesting that they're literally, going to build a fence to create a physical barrier between,
The fence is there.
Well, in some of the plans,
Rectifying that ability to connect to West Main Street is, built into what the master plan is looking at. And, they're going to allow for our ability to get to West Main Street. So far, that seems to be all they're really willing to give on, and we would like y'all's support to ask for more. There may be things they can do, there may be things that that they can't do, but we definitely need your support in saying, this is really unfair and totally not cool.
definitely will. Oh, go.
Is there a specific thing that you want us to say that we support?
Yeah, we can work on that.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
for
I think
sure.
that would
I mean,
be-
everything I said, safety.
Yeah.
Is a huge one. There are parts of the master plan that we set aside due to safety concerns. So having our path to West Main Street that's flanked by a giant wall without a whole lot of space and a whole lot of lighting and access, who gets access, what kind of scrutiny are folks going to be under as they're using that. That's a big one. And so a huge disparate impact on safety and connection to the neighborhood. And the other really is connection to West Main in general. I mean, it's
The center of economic and political
Yeah.
life in our city.
Exactly.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. And we'll definitely be there Thursday, hope others are, and again, happy to connect to, talk further. Anything else?
Councilman. The important dates on the back of the first page, like the safety committee meeting, resident service committee, admin, redevelopment committee, next work session, and the next board meeting.
Yes, sorry. So, important dates. Next CRHA Board Work Session will be Thursday, August 14th at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. The next CRHA Board Regular Meeting will be Monday, August 25th at 6 p.m., also here in City Council chambers. Redevelopment Committee meetings every first Thursday of the month from 3 to 4 p.m. CRHA Admin Redevelopment Meeting every third Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Resident Safety Committee meeting every second Wednesday of the month at 12 p.m. Resident Services Committee every second Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. And then we also have, I believe, on
August 6th.
August 6th at 6 p.m. at City Space, there will be a City Council joint meeting with the CRHA Board, which will obviously be a very important and hopefully productive meeting. So definitely look forward to that. Yes?
August 2nd, West Haven Community Day.
Yes. August 2nd, West Haven Community Day.
Sorry. Is the August 6th meeting, is that, will we be given that Zoom? I'm not going to be here.
Yes, so that will be accessible via Zoom, City Space. You can get to through Zoom, so that link will be,
Okay.
that can definitely be sent out.
And sorry, I forgot to include that one on here.
And as long as we have a physical quorum, you can participate virtually.
Okay.
Any other dates?
Nope, sorry.
Now, we really will go to public comment. Is there anybody in person or online from the public who would like to speak, or from far? Seeing no one, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
The which one? August 14th?
15, 22.
Oh, look at you. Well, we had a great cookie. I'm serious. Would you like chocolate or vanilla?